Hello everybody, my name is Jose Gonzalez Nieves and I will be presenting my engineering management project. So the agenda for today is we're going to cover some of the background of the project, we're going to state the problem of the project, then we're going to discuss the methodology that we use to carry out the project from initiation phase to the closing phase. Also, we're going to be discussing the results and discussion of this project. And finally, we will have a conclusion exposing the different findings about the project. So a little bit about the project background. So I work for the Newport News Shipbuilding Company, which is one of the largest America's military shipbuilding company. NNS also builds within this division builds aircraft carriers and submarines that are nuclear powered. Also, the NNS company is moving to digitalization. So what we have in here is a large company that builds complex systems and is moving to digitalization. So if you combine all of these aspects together, what you end up is having excessive content generation. So by excessive content generation, what I mean is that we have many individuals, either designers, assistants, engineers, creating digital content, let's say files, spreadsheets, presentation, documentation that could be for design, requirements, specs, and all of that is stored in a network structure. So the main problem about this network structure is that, as you can see on the left side, at some point, individuals tend to keep creating folders and folders, and they have a nested folder structure. So during the day, sometimes, most of the time, it's hard to find specific files that we need to do our daily task. Also, the main problem is that you have duplicate files, you have versioning issues with the files, is non-standard structure, so it's hard to tell uh, when and how to find the files. So the project is basically to transition this folder structure, nested folder structure, to a collaborative web-based environment using SharePoint. This will allow to increase collaboration. This will improve security of the files and also will remove that problem with documents findability. So by implementing this project, we will have a business impact. So we will be, as I said, we will be increasing productivity, we will increase collaboration, we will increase the media content security, and finally, we will have a more robust content management system, which means it will be easier to find files, it will be easier to manage files, it will be easier to put security on specific files. So in order to carry out this project, how we did it. So first, we started with the proposal. So in the proposal section, we have the overview of the project. So we presented what we wanted the project to be, requirements, specs, team, budget, and all those aspects were presented to management. They agree on the proposal. So then we move it to the initiation phase. So the initiation phase was based on building what we call the holacracy team, which is self-sustained teams. The main difference with these teams or groups is that they take decision based on what they think it is important during that moment. Their decisions are not based on a leader or a boss telling them what is a priority. They prioritize the task based on group and team discussions. After we end up building the self-sustained team, we move it to the development of the project. So we had in here three important aspects. The first one, really insightful, was the literature review. So during the literature review, we found some specific aspects that we must consider in order to have a successful transition from the network folder structure to the SharePoint environment. Then after we gather that data, we proceed to implement the different tools and methodologies. like Kanban. So Kanban, we use it to specifically track and monitor the different daily tasks to move the project from the initiation phase to the closing state. Also, we implement the Agile. So with this methodology, we wanted to mainly focus on the product. So we wanted to heavily deliver SharePoint site quickly. We didn't want to base development decision on documentation. We didn't want it because of the time frame of the project. We just wanted to execute and develop something quickly. Finally, during the closing phase, we evaluated the project, like what were the big findings, what we learned, lesson learned, what could we do better. So some of the results and discussion that we found during this project is that in order to have a SharePoint successful transition, we have to have four aspects. The first one is that the company has to have information architecture in place. The second one is that it is important to have what we call the governance procedures. So this procedure specifies the rules, definitions, aspect, everything related to managing those SharePoint websites, how users are defined, how user access the content, how user upload the content, what type of content can be uploaded, what type of security or permissions are applied to those specific content. Also, another important aspect during the execution of the project is that finding number three, in order to have this successful transition for SharePoint, we need to train user because we cannot implement a new environment like a web environment if users don't know how to use it. Also, since SharePoint is a platform that user can be more open to the way they upload content, those users, you can have basic users and advanced users. So it is important to provide training for both type of user, because otherwise you will end up having a platform that does not support the technical expertise of those users. And in the process, you will have a bunch of issues like on the network based folder structure. Finally, it is important that if you want to deploy a SharePoint website, you take in consideration during the development of those sites the requirements and specs of those end user that will be using that specific site. That's extremely important because you don't want to end up having a SharePoint site that is not easy to browse for those users, that it doesn't provide the content as those users are expecting. So these are the main, the most important findings. Again, information architecture, governance procedure, user training based on two types, basic and advanced, and finally, having the user involved in the development of the SharePoint sites. So the conclusion of the project was that literature review is really important on non-research project. So initially we thought that since this was a base type project, non-research, we shouldn't do it. But we found that it is really important because otherwise you can leverage from what was done in different industries. Also, you can leverage ideas to incorporate into the project, so that way you reach faster the closing phase and you minimize cost losses from trial and error. So literature review provides you a foundation for a solid project execution. Also, we found that there are four aspects for the successful SharePoint transition, which are, as I said, information architecture, governance procedure, training for the user, and having the user involvement in the website. So some of the deliverables of these projects were the governance procedures that we were able to craft. And also, we deployed two SharePoint websites for our teams. So those SharePoint websites have the collaborative sections and also have the space according to the user requirements. So remember, if you have any question, to post those into the Blackboard platform. I will be gladly assist you answering those. Thank you for your time.